and belated Happy New Year to everybody. So, with 2017 officially in the books, and I've seen all the movies from this year that I had hoped to see, it's now time to break everything down and figure out who were the best, who were the worst, and who were the meh films of the year. So, as always, I limit this to films that I have seen and reviewed. So, maybe the Emoji Movie really is one of the biblical signs of apocalypse. But, as I didn't waste my money or my time seeing it, we got close. Susan and I got close. But, since I didn't see it and review it, it's not eligible for this list. So I'm also going to try, I know last year, because it was the first time I ever did these, my reviews ran a bit long, and I want to try to keep it down a little bit, but no promises. So I'm going to try to limit this a little bit. So let's start at the bottom and work our way to the top. So these are my top 10 worst films of 2017. Number 10, The Circle. You know, I feel like I spent most of the review for that one just trying to figure out what the hell was going on in that. It's a movie where basically, in the end, nothing happens, and all of the emotional reactions that the film wants us to have, it doesn't earn. It wants us to get all worked up that Tom Hanks and Patton Oswalt are doing something sinister and evil, and really doesn't show them doing anything bad, you know, and why then we should feel good that they get their comeuppance in the end. And Emma Watson's character, you know, is the most morally ambiguous character, no moral compass whatsoever, or her moral compass is easy to ignore, and we're never sure if that's by design or if the audience is supposed to feel her fall from grace and then her return, or what. But the film just doesn't work as a whole. It markets itself as this techno thriller that isn't thrilling in the least. Number 9, Collide. Be honest, until I said that name, you probably forgot this movie existed, and even after hearing it, most of you probably still forgot it existed. So this is one of 2, or I guess 3 driving movies that came out this year. You know, this one, Fast and Furious 427, and Baby Driver. I'm not a fan of any of them, but where Fast and Furious and Baby Driver succeed is where this film fails spectacularly, in that there is absolutely nothing memorable or good about it. You know, say what you want about Baby Driver, at least it was memorable. At least it had elements to it that stuck in your head. This film, it passes right through you. You know, the only thing that vaguely sticks is the god-awful performance by Academy Award winner Sir Ben Kingsley. This is got to be one of the worst performances and one of the worst characters in years. And he seems so proud of it. Number 8, Lego Ninjago movie. You know, it's interesting to watch the sliding slope that the Lego films have been on. The first one was one of the freshest, most energetic, surprisingly clever and heartfelt films that has come down the pike in a long, long time. They used the premise really brilliantly and did a lot of great stuff with it. The Lego Batman movie, which came out in February, was okay. You know, I think it limited its scope a bit too much, and, you know, I think like a lot of people, are just on Batman fatigue, so even though it was a send-up of Batman, it's still like, oh god, Batman again. And then there's this film, in which it feels like all the originality, all the spontaneity, all the millions of things you could do with this premise, which is literally limitless. And we get yet another daddy issues fairy tale. And what makes it even worse is that this weird framing device they put in it, where some kid is feeling bullied or some shit like that, and Jackie Chan tells him a story, which is the movie. So that means that Jackie Chan is telling this kid this story about some guy having bad daddy issues, that makes you think the store owner, played by Jackie Chan, has some unresolved daddy issues, which have nothing to do with the issues the kid is going through at the time. So, just retreading tired ground, nowhere near as clever, nowhere near as fun. It was just a slog to get through, and I'm glad when it was over. Number 7, Hitman's Bodyguard. So I had to do some soul searching on this one, because my review for this one was just very angry, and I had to really think about, was that really the movie's fault, or was it just the target that kind of had all this venom lobbed at it? And upon reflection, I don't think it warranted the extreme reaction I gave it, but that doesn't make it any less of a shitty movie. Just over choreographed, a script that didn't make a lot of sense, and another one of those films that really, really made me question, do I actually like Ryan Reynolds? Because I thought I liked Ryan Reynolds. I really thought I did, but after this one and Deadpool, I'm like, I'm starting to question whether or not Ryan Reynolds is actually as talented as I always thought he was. Number 6, The Dark Tower. Whoo! What a generic, dull piece of nothing this was. Oh, man. And as someone who's never read the series but has known plenty of people who have, to see this multi-volumed, multi-thousand-page epic broken down into the most generic story with the most generic characters, and none of it done very well. Oh, man, what a boring movie. Number 5, Snatched. I would rather slam my extremities in this car door than watch this movie again. I'd rather study for another praxis test than watch this movie again. I would rather... Number 4, Alien Covenant and Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. So there's going to be a lot of themes in this year's various lists. I've noticed that there's certain reoccurring things, and in each list, 2 movies share a spot, which is not something I usually set out to do. It's just kind of what happens. And these 2 movies share this spot because they are both terrible, and they are both terrible for the exact same reason. That they are film franchises that are dead. They are dead. You have trudged every area that can be trudged with them. There are no new horizons. Nothing has worked, and it is time to let them both die. Both of these films are just overlong, over-directed, and overdue to be put down. The only question you have to ask yourself is, pick your poison here. Do you want a long dead film series that looks it and is just sleepwalking from point A to point B? Or do you want a long-dead franchise with its head so far up its ass about its own pretentious take on creation and life and this, that, and the other thing that it just makes the whole thing feel like one long philosophy lecture? Whichever way you want to go, both of these film franchises, it is time to lovingly take them out back, pat them on their heads. They gave us some good memories. They were great once, and let's try to remember that. And we need to put them out of their misery. You can't save it. I know there's someone out there going, but they can still make a good Aliens movie if they did this, this, and this. Stop. They can't. There have been at least 7 of these things now. 2 of them are good, and it's not the 2 you think. So when your ratio is that bad, it is time to pull the plug. Number 3, The Mummy. So it's interesting that this one lands at number 3, because I've seen a lot of other top 10 worst lists, and usually this one's topping it. And it's hard to argue with the reasons why, because this is clearly the biggest disaster of the year. This is a film that fails spectacularly at everything it sets out to do. It is a terrible remake of the original Mummy with Boris Karloff, not Brendan Fraser. It is a god-awful monster movie in its own right, and as a way to start a potential dark universe, it's worse than Batman v Superman in that regard. It has one of the most overrated and underperforming actors of all time in its lead, at his most Tom Cruise-iest, playing completely against type, because they really want him to be Chris Pine, or not Chris Pine, I'm sorry about that, my mistake. They really want him to be Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy here, with that snarky everyman, I'm too sarcastic and clever for this, macho swagger, and he doesn't pull it off. So much world building and so many Easter eggs that there's no actual plot, and the plot that there is so confusing and mind-numbing and unconnectable to anything even remotely resembling a story. I mean, just watching this thing, it felt like watching a car accident. It literally felt that way. And what's worse is that at least, Batman v Superman or Justice League, it can claim all this behind-the-scenes problems and this, that, and the other thing for it. This has no such excuse. This thing is just garbage, and it, like I say, I believe, I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but as of the time I'm recording this, I believe it put a permanent kibosh on the dark universe before it even really got started, which, if they were all going to be like The Mummy, I believe we should be thankful. Number 2, Brad's Status. So, while The Mummy was, without a doubt, kind of the biggest disaster of the year in terms of films, I can't honestly say it was my worst movie, because there were 2 movies that I think did things way more unforgivable than The Mummy did. We all knew The Mummy was going to suck. There was no, 2 ways about it. So the fact that it did at such a monumental level really isn't, a deal breaker for me. This movie, however, it made me physically and emotionally angry. Much like its predecessor, Manchester by the Sea, this is a movie about an ugly person with, little to no acting ability, in a story that can't decide what's it wants its audience to feel. Are we supposed to hate this guy? Are we supposed to sympathize with this guy? Are we supposed to, wish good things for him, wish him ill? What is going on here? This piece of crap guy who just suddenly decides his life is shit. This guy who has a loving wife and a kid who's going to go to Harvard, or is at least on the waiting list and get an interview to Harvard. Yeah, what a shit life you've got, buddy. And I get the people. I've had people tell me, like, well, it's a modern day, death of a salesman and all that. He doesn't see the good he did and all that. And you know what? Death of a salesman is shit, too. All right? And this guy, Willy Loman, was a crappy human being, and so is this guy. Call me whatever you want. I'm uneducated, I'm on this, I'm on that. But there is nothing redeemable, likable, sympathetic about this person. And pair him up with a young actor who has fewer facial expressions than C-3PO and fewer alterations to his vocal performance than Stephen Hawking's, and you've got just one of the most aggravating and ugly films I have witnessed in a long time. Number 1, Split. Yeah, I know, it's just me being contrary again, because once again, everybody in the world seems to love this movie except for old stick-in-the-mud me, who just can't seem to get on board with it. Well, I'm sorry, folks. I don't care what you say. This movie sucks, and it sucked hard. Everything bad about not just a film, but a Shyamalan film is here, and yet we're all just magically forgetting it. It has plot points that don't work. It shifts tone. The characters, especially the good characters, or the characters, that therapist lady, none of them behave in a way that logic would dictate a human being, especially a well-educated and used to dealing with unstable personalities human being would behave. On top of that, and this is the one that really gets me, can we get over this shit that James McAvoy's performance is somehow transcendent because he played all these different characters and did them so well? No, he fucking didn't. Putting on a dress and an overdone voice does not acting make. Oh, look at me. I'm a very stern British woman now. And I'm a crazy kid because I talk really funny. Fuck that. You want to see real acting? Go watch Orphan Black and watch that young lady play upwards of 6 to 7 different characters so well and so convincingly you would swear that they were different actors. Hell, you know what? I'll even go one better. Lindsay Lohan, when she was in The Parent Trap when she was a kid, did a better job of playing 2 completely separate, different characters than James McAvoy did. So whoever started this whole thing that this was somehow some kind of masterpiece of acting obviously hasn't watched much of it. All right? And to top it all off, to make this whole thing even more annoying, the whole goddamn thing is just to set up yet another motherfucking cinematic universe. Because the thing that the world was begging for was the M. Night Shyamalaniverse. Ooh, I hope all his films are connected. You know what? I'm a firm believer in the fact that if you like something, that's fine and dandy. Nobody has the right to tell you what to enjoy, what to watch, what you get a kick out of. So, if you liked any of these films on this list, then you know what? More power to you. Enjoy what you want to enjoy and enjoy it freely. But for me, these were just a pile of garbage, and Split is the rotted candy apple right on top of the garbage sundae. So, That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, to quote Dennis Miller. So, I've let off my steam. Before I go praising films that I think were the best of the year, I always like to take a little side trip to that other category of film. Category. You can tell I've been teaching all day. That other category of film, the meh films. And we're going to talk about those next time. So, until then, drive safe, and I'll see you at the movies.